Derbyites, it's the high holy day. It's the day that we've all been waiting for. It's Oscar day or Oscar night, depending on where you are, or Oscar morning, depending on where you are on the globe. I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby. I'm so thrilled to be back once again hosting our Gold Derby pre-show, and I'm joined by a cavalcade of stars today. First up, we're doing this in four separate blocks with different guests. We'll be talking about every single category today. But in each block, we will also be talking about the four categories that seem to have the most interest at the moment, and that is Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Supporting Actress. And of course, we will cover all the other categories as we go. I have Latasha Ford, who's dialing in from LA. She's going to be our resident expert on the stats and the odds at Gold Derby. So I'm so thrilled to welcome her. I think this is her first time. Welcome, Latasha. How exciting!
Yes, very exciting.
I've also got Denton Davidson, Luca Giliberti, and Sam Eckmann. Gentlemen, I'm so thrilled to have you back on. I feel so lucky that you're all on the same slot with me together. We're going to kill it today.
Are we?
It's gonna be a good night.
Let's hope. So listen, I reckon we need to get straight into it because we don't have that much time. We have half an hour for each slot, and I know you guys are just dying to tell me what you think. So before we get into all the other really cool categories, we need to start with Best Supporting Actress because that's the first category of the night that they're announcing. Like, of all the categories to start off with, it's that one. It's really, to me, it's the big one. It's the one that I have no freaking clue what the hell is going on. Before I go to our trusty gentleman, Latasha, I think we need to go straight to you so that you can talk us through the odds about Best Supporting Actress because it is giving me such a migraine.
Yes. This is not only one of the biggest categories tonight, but one of my most exciting categories. And as of now, according to the odds, we definitely have Kerry Condon for the Banshees of Inisherin taking home that Oscar. But again, that is absolutely according to these predictions. Now, there could possibly be an upset underway by none other than Miss Angela Bassett for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So this should be very, very interesting to see if Kerry takes home this trophy or if Mrs. Bassett sneaks up right behind her. I mean, look at the odds.
Look at
that. How intriguing, right? So yeah, Rob, this is going to be definitely an interesting category tonight.
That is so fascinating that you've got Kerry Condon just kind of took the lead not long ago. And I'm guessing that's probably when just after SAG. Oh, no, it's quite recent actually. And Jamie Lee Curtis is right up there as well. This is a three-way battle, guys, and Latasha. Like, this is like really, really confusing. I'm going with Jamie Lee Curtis because after SAG, I thought, all right, you know what? I'm not going to overthink this anymore. I'm going with Jamie Lee Curtis. But I tell you what, if any of these women win, I will be so happy. This is such a killer category. So I need to go straight to you guys. Denton, what the hell is going on in Best Supporting Actress?
You know, this one is the one that's been making my brain crazy the most this whole award season. And up until Wednesday, I was like, you know what? I'm done predicting. I'm done making changes. And this morning, I made the switch. I cowered it out, and I switched to Kerry Condon. I didn't have her winning all season, but I just kept envisioning her winning in my mind. And I just feel like it's going to happen. If you look at the history and the stats, BAFTA's only been wrong once in the last 20 plus years when the eventual Oscar winner was at least nominated for the BAFTA. You know, if they got the Oscar winner wrong, the Oscar winner either wasn't nominated for BAFTA or they were nominated for a different movie. The only one they ever got wrong in this category was they awarded Jennifer Lawrence over Lupita Nyong'o. BAFTA's powerful here. And SAG, Jamie Lee Curtis could have been a SAG thing. They like the veteran actors. So that makes me nervous. It makes me nervous that she's the veteran and she has Angela Bassett, a veteran. I think they're going to split a lot of votes. And then Jamie Lee also has Stephanie Hsu from her own film. And then Angela's in a Marvel movie. And, the snobby part of the Academy hates Marvel movies. So I think it's an uphill battle for her. And that's why at the last minute, I wanted Jamie Lee Curtis to win or Angela Bassett to win, but my head is telling me Kerry Condon is going to win this.
Oh my God. Now we should probably just do full disclosure that last night Denton and I were texting and he said to me that he was not going to make any further changes. Now,
But I had liquid courage when we were talking.
true that, as did I. And you said also that I admitted to you that I envisage winners in my mind and I thought that sounded so crazy. And he's like, yeah, me too. And I'm like, oh shit, I thought it was just me.
I tried to psychic them. I'm like, who looks the best holding it
Yeah. And that means that we
definitely matters.
It does. And I feel like maybe we probably need some therapy, but also I'm glad it's not just me. Luca, what about you? Do you envisage Kerry Condon taking home the Oscar?
I do. I've actually been predicting her ever since she won the BAFTA, and I didn't change after SAG. Here's the thing. When you have a wide open race like this or a split race like this, most of the time it's best to listen to BAFTA, right? Because we've seen that in so many different races throughout the past few years. When there's a split race, listen to BAFTA. And I think, when we evaluate the BAFTA results, what's never taken into consideration is that the reason they're so important is that, as a precursor, is that it's the first time we actually get to see an entire Academy vote for all these different categories, right? So I think that's why BAFTA holds so much weight. And you also have to look at the international support in general. I mean, Kerry Condon doesn't just have BAFTA, she also won. People might laugh, but she did win the ACTA International Awards over in Australia.
Oh, yes.
She won the London Film Critics Circle, and we know that the International Bloc in the Academy has been quite strong throughout the past few years. So we know that Kerry Condon's coming in with a ton of international support. Then add to that Banshees of Inisherin is obviously very strong. 9 nominations, 4 acting nominations. And I think most of us don't really have it predicted in any other categories, and this might be the perfect place to reward the film. I don't know if voters think that way, but it's possible they do. I'm very worried about Jamie Lee Curtis. I do think she could be a SAG thing. I do think that at the Oscars, she might split her vote a bit more with Stephanie Hsu, because I could see Oscar voters or more Oscar voters going with her. And I don't like to let these anonymous ballots get in my head, but damn, have we seen a lot of people go for Jamie Lee Curtis, even if they didn't go for Everything Everywhere All at Once in other categories, even in Best Picture. They still went with her because so many people have worked with her. But the problem is, and this is also the problem for Angela Bassett, is that typically when you have a legacy win, or when you're vying for a legacy win, you typically sweep. And neither Angela nor Jamie has done that. So that's where I sort of see the hurdles for them. And with Angela, I feel bad for her because, after the Globes, it really seemed like this was her year. And it certainly still can be, but she should have won the SAG Award. The fact that she didn't win it, even though, Black Panther won Ensemble a few years ago, even though it's such a popular, Wakanda Forever is such a populist film, she should have been able to win this. And the fact that she didn't is very worrisome. So yeah, that's why I'm going with Kerry.
And I want to just add, in terms of the legacy votes for Angela and Jamie Lee, just think about Glenn Close and losing that Oscar. The Academy members have no feelings. They don't care. They're totally insensitive to these people, and they're not worried about Angela or Jamie Lee Curtis. That's all I have to add about that.
They didn't really seem to care that much about Chadwick Boseman, the late Chadwick Boseman either. So
nope.
It's a damn good point. Now, the thing is, though, I'm still not completely convinced about Kerry Condon, although that stat that
Me neither.
from the comments is so compelling. I didn't even think of that. So good job on that stat. So, Sam, it's all up to you now, mate. Tell me what you're going for and why, and it better be bloody persuasive.
So I have been feeling confident about Jamie Lee Curtis for a while. What is making me feel shaky, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be persuasive because I feel suddenly shaky at the last minute because it feels more and more like Everything Everywhere may take original screenplay. I know we shouldn't put full 100% stock in these anonymous ballots, but what we do here are patterns that repeat. And a pattern that repeats is people saying, oh, well, that's the most original, so I'm voting for it. And if that's the case, then Banshee's only other shot is Kerry Condon. And so that would be a very compelling reason why she could win here as as the only win for her film. I just feel like it has less to do for Jamie Lee Curtis with, an overdue narrative. It's more about what we talked about before of like envisioning someone up there with that Oscar. When you saw her at SAG, it's like, God, it just feels so good to see her up there accepting an award. She has been so charming, such a great presence on the campaign trail, on every red carpet this season, that I feel like she's made enough of an impression to people, also coming with the legacy that she does, say like, God, doesn't it just like seem like it should be her time? We want to see what she has to say when she gets up there and accepts an Oscar. And she's in the film that I think is going to have an incredibly strong night tonight. Mm-hmm. So I'm hesitant because Carrie is a very, as those stats in the comments said, it's a very compelling choice. But I am still going with Jamie Lee Curtis because I think she just ticks off that emotional box for people where it just is a feel-good vote to vote for her.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's exactly where I'm headed. Guys, and Latasha, we do need to move on because we don't have too much time. We have to cover 4 categories plus the other 4 that we all are going to cover. So let's just briefly, we won't go to the stats for actor at the moment. We'll do that later. But just on Best Actor, it seems to have coalesced between a 2-horse race between Brendan Fraser and Austin Butler. I'm actually going for Colin Farrell. I've decided to just go off that cliff. I'm having my feelings about what I think might happen. But I know I'm probably wrong, and that's okay. But I feel like if I'm right, I really want that credit so I can lord it over you all basically until the end of time. So, Denton, pretty briefly, where are you at on Best Actor and why?
I'm on Austin Butler. For me, it's when the race gets close, go with the movie that has the most nominations. So if it's between him and Fraser, Elvis has done very well below the line. It has the Best Picture nomination. The Whale does not. So that's why I'm going in that direction. They also love a biopic. He's probably going to be the only potential biopic winner this year, playing Elvis, no less. So I think that's really attractive to Academy members. I expect Elvis to do really well overall tonight. I have it winning multiple Oscars. I can't remember the exact number, 4 maybe. So that's where I'm going. I don't think you're crazy for Farrell, though. If Brendan and Austin split, Farrell is the veteran actor that a lot of voters might look at him and say, I would rather see him win an Oscar than Austin Butler or Brendan Fraser. And he is in, you want to talk about, respected movies. The Banshees overall is the most respected film of the bunch. So I'm not completely counting out Colin Farrell. You're probably wrong, but you might.
Definitely wrong.
All right. So how about you?
About me? I am going with Austin Butler. I think it is between Austin and Brendan Fraser. I'm sorry. Sorry, my friend. I don't think Colin is in this because if Colin was in this, he would have won BAFTA. BAFTA went insane for Banshees, but pick him because I want to do better than you. So, but I think what do we see all the time with this? They want transformation. They just can't help themselves but go for these transformative parts. And both men do an incredible job in that sense. But I think Austin takes it a step further. He's helped by the fact that we know who Elvis is, and he changes his full physicality. He sings, he does the voice, he gets all of that down. And not only that, but he actually changes over time as you see Elvis age. So there's so many levels of transformation in that film. And that stuff is just catnip to these people. And again, I do think, like Denton, I think Elvis will do very well. So I think Austin Butler has really pulled ahead.
Okay. And what about you, Luca?
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I completely agree. I've had Austin Butler for a while now. The biggest problem for Brendan Fraser is the fact that The Whale missed Best Picture and Best Adapted Screenplay. As the co-chair of the Viola Davis fan club, I can tell you that those misses are very dangerous. This is exactly what happened to Ma Rainey a few years ago. And we saw how that impacted Chadwick Boseman's and Viola Davis's winning chances, because it just shows that there's not a lot of support for the movie in the entire Academy in this case. For The Whale, and I feel like all the reasons Austin is so strong have already been mentioned. I get the concern that he's that he's young, even though, again, he's not as young as people think. He's 31 years old. There's also this sort of belief that he's like a breakthrough performer, and I completely understand where that comes from, but he has been working for quite a long time. I remember watching him back in 2007 on iCarly on some guest. I watched his cameo. Wow. So he's been around for a while. Yeah, I think I don't need to repeat what's already been mentioned. I think the transformation, the strength of the film, I think all of that is going to work in his favor. Though I would love a Colin Farrell upset. That would be wonderful.
Well, I think you're onto something. I think he could have the iCarly vote. I think that's actually...
Yeah, exactly. The most important one.
Pretty much. Okay, so look, who hasn't had a turnabout actor? I think we need to move on, guys. Let's actually talk about the screenplay categories if we could for a bit, because they are nowhere near as rock solid in terms of locks as what we would hope. In adapted screenplay, women talking seems to have won a lot of the precursors, but this is in no way a lock for Sarah Polley. Latasha, can you take us through the odds? Because I'm so confused.
Yes, most certainly. So the odds are pretty intriguing here. We most certainly have women talking, taking the win home tonight, closely followed by All Quiet on the Western Front. So it'll be interesting to see if this is an upset. I kind of feel like Top Gun Maverick is going to surprise a few people. However, these predictions, I mean, hey, they're seeing it all.
Wow. Okay. So it looks like women talking is pretty comfortable there, according to what Latasha's presenting to us. So I'm curious if anyone in this group is not predicting Sarah Polley to take home that long overdue, in my opinion, Oscar. Oh, okay. We've got two people already. So Sam, it looks like you're on the women talking bandwagon with me. Is that correct?
I sure am. I think Sarah Polley has been... I think people love her, and that script is just so tight and is so dialogue heavy. I did have All Quiet for a long time, but I just think that women talking script is incredibly tight. I know it didn't get a lot of nominations, but I think people maybe didn't see that. It was a little underseen before nominations, and afterwards it was kind of like, why didn't this get more? And I think people took the time to check it out. So I think tonight women be winning in this one category at least.
Women be winning. Okay, Luca, why are you not going with women talking?
I mean, look, I want Sarah Polley to win. I really, really, really want her to win. I just want to put that out there first. And I really am not confident in my All Quiet prediction. But before the BAFTAs took place, I said, if anything but All Quiet wins the BAFTA and Sarah Polley wins WGA, I will predict Sarah Polley. But then we saw what happened at BAFTA. All Quiet not only won Adapted Screenplay, it won 7 awards. It completely overperformed. It showed how much strength it has there. Again, it's tied with The Banshees of Inisherin as the second most nominated film at the Oscars this year. There is a ton of support for it. Whereas Women Talking only has those 2 nominations, the other being Best Picture, obviously. I think what Sam mentions is a possibility that a lot of people may have caught up with Women Talking, after the nominations. We see that all the time. We saw that with Coda last year, where it sort of gained momentum afterwards. And I think there's also some evidence to suggest that could be the case here, because we saw Women Talking's been on a bit of a roll these past 2 weeks. Sarah Polley won WGA, she won USC Scripter. Way back in January, she also won Critics' Choice. They got to give a speech at the Indie Spirit. So there has been some momentum for it, and I could definitely see that, pushing it across the finish line here. But I'm still just very worried that there's not enough passion for it in the Academy. And it's just been underperforming at every turn this award season. The problem with All Quiet is that, and we've talked about this internally a bit, is that it's not a traditional screenplay winner, right? Because it's a war film.
And foreign.
And yeah, exactly. And that's certainly what gives me pause, especially because not everyone is a big fan of this adaptation. There are a lot of people who have, issues with the third act or with the Daniel Brühl character, whatever else. But at the end of the day, for me, it just comes down to which of these films has more overall support. And I just think that's All Quiet. So that's why I'm going with it. But again, I would love to see Sarah Polley win.
I think that's very compelling. Although I know secretly, Luca, you're just going for that because you live in Germany. So Denton, what about you? Have you got anything to add
Absolutely.
Listen, I've been screaming this to anyone who will listen, that I just don't think Women Talking is going to win. If you look historically at the statistics, the adapted screenplay winner goes to either the Best Picture or something that's nominated 4, 5, 6 times. I mean, being nominated for 2 Academy Awards and winning screenplay has not happened in at least the last 20 plus years. So I just don't buy it statistically. And that's what I'm going with. And I get this love for Sarah Polley, but I don't think they love anyone. I think I said that before. I think they care about anything or anyone. And I'm going with All Quiet on the Western Front. I have Top Gun in seconds. I have Women Talking.
Wow.
I'm so confident that it's not winning. I put it in 3rd place because I went with the 2 actually Best Picture nominees that are actual contenders. I mean, you talk about 2 nominees, and that second nomination, they probably just slid in barely for Best Picture. I mean, Women Talking had 9th or 10th. I mean, it could have easily been its only nomination. So I just have zero confidence that Women Talking is going to win, and I hope everyone keeps it because it'll be just 1 point for me.
Oh, mate.
I get the point as well.
That's fascinating. I think you're all making such compelling arguments. So thank you for confusing the issue even more. Let's move over to original before we completely run out of time. Latasha, can you just knock some sense into us first about original screenplay? Where are the odds? Because, Gold Derby knows everything. So
let's definitely do it. So most certainly Everything Everywhere All at Once is literally leading in that top spot, with the Banshees of Inisherin following very, very close behind. Tar, clearly the favorite, and Triangle of Sadness, like they are gunning for the same spot. It's interesting to see the leap over the weeks with Everything Everywhere All at Once, but again, no big surprises there. I would have anticipated seeing the Banshees of Inisherin a little bit further up there, closer to Everything Everywhere, but this is going to be an interesting one. It's been one of the most intriguing categories this season so far.
That's fascinating how Banshees just got overtaken by quite a lot. All of a sudden, it just went like this. So that's interesting to me. I thought, I can see a lot of people predicting Banshees of Inisherin. To me, this is Everything Everywhere All at Once. And honestly, as much as I love that movie, if there's one thing that I probably would have criticized, maybe it was the screenplay. But I guess Academy voters are really going to go for that one, according to what our odds are saying. Who in this chat at the moment is not predicting Everything Everywhere All at Once? Anybody? No? Okay, so we're all there. Does anyone, because of time constraints, does anyone have any compelling argument as to why it could maybe fall at the last second to another film in this category? Or are you pretty confident?
I think Banshees makes a compelling case for the category. It's a very writerly film. So much of the film, the way it works, is based on the interplay of dialogue. It is an incredibly dialogue-heavy film, and a lot of the comedy comes from that, and the pathos comes from that. And Martin hasn't won for a feature yet, so that would be a nice thing to happen. And that's what I predicted for a long time. But in the end, I think we've heard over and over from people that the overall concept, the originality of the concept of Everything Everywhere is just really sticking out to people. I think it's not only the most unique film of the year, it's one of the most unique films. It's kind of like impossible to categorize it. And so because that word original is there in the title, I think that it's people are going to check that box for Everything Everywhere.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Everyone everywhere all at once. We're going to have to move on unless you have something extremely prescient or important to say. And frankly, I don't think you do. We've got to talk about score. We need to see what the hell is going on here, because I know Latasha's going to tell us that something very interesting happened, like literally overnight, I think a couple of days ago, in this category, which doesn't happen very often. Latasha, take us straight to original score, because this is one of my favorite categories. Look at that.
Literally, I am going to say focus on the red and the blue in this situation. All Quiet on the Western Front and Babylon. All we have to do is literally look at the trajectory of the increase, especially with All Quiet on the West Front. So without a doubt, they're definitely gunning for their first spot. And according to the predictions and the odds, they are the ones that will be heading home with that Oscar tonight. But there is clearly a possible upset that is possible with Babylon. But again, just look at the red and the blue,
That's
and
crazy.
I mean, this is how crazy is this? And how often do you see this, especially in this particular category?
It doesn't, like we've all been saying for some, not all, I mean, making generalizations, but it's like Babylon's been out in front for ages, and then suddenly Volker Bertelmann's score from All Quiet started to really make some noise. I think it won the BAFTA, obviously. A lot of us have been talking about this score, and I think it's definitely a possibility. Are any of you not predicting either Babylon or All Quiet on the Western Front? Because I think they're the top two, right? So before we move on to the final categories in this particular chunk, any particularly compelling arguments that we need to hear about score? Because this one's wide open. I'm going for Volker Bertelmann. I'm biased. I thought that was the best score of the group, and I love him as a composer. What about you guys? Anything better than my wishy-washy reason?
No, I agree with you. And, for me, it was the most haunting score and the one that stuck with me. But, Babylon's only nominated for 2 Oscars. So the thought that, and potentially both. But again, straw poll of 1. But I was at an event with an Academy member, and I was talking to him. There was no category he was more excited about than wanting All Quiet to win Best Score. And he was not a musician. So he was a producer. So there's definitely a lot of love and support for that score. And
wow.
And Justin Hurwitz has his Oscar. So I would just love to see it go in All Quiet's direction.
Isn't it interesting that those 2 films, the score is really prominent. I can almost remember or hum the Babylon score and the All Quiet score. That electric guitar cue. So haunting, so beautiful, so brilliant. I just hope it wins. I really want it to win. So unless anyone has any further comments on score, I know I'm sorry we had to rush through that one. But go ahead if you do. I'm going to give you like 3 seconds. Okay, so we're going to move on to visual effects. Now, this is just so wide open. I just have no idea. Oh, no, I'm kidding. This is going to be Avatar: The Way of Water. And if you're not going for the lockiest lock of the locks for this category, then you're crazy. Latasha, show us the graph. We know what's
Let's
happening.
do it. So in this particular category, best visual effects, I mean, is there a damn competition at all? Without a doubt, a blind man can see that we have Avatar gunning for the Oscar tonight. The question is, will it be theirs, or will there be an upset?
See? Latasha knows the receipts, because we've all said in the past, oh, that film's going to be visual effects. Remember the year that Ex Machina won? I mean, I'm still scratching my head over that. So let's not get too excited about Avatar: The Way of Water. There are no locks at the Oscars, okay? I'm saying that because I'm trying to find some mystery in this category, but we know.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Ex Machina won when there was no Best Picture winner in the category, and it was sort of the most respected film, which can happen a lot of times.
I think you're
but
right.
not a single person on Gold Derby predicted the Ex Machina win, so it was incredibly out of the ordinary, even given the circumstances.
Yeah, so I think we just need to remember that is a certain possibility. Now, before we bring in our next group, Best Picture, who is not predicting Everything Everywhere All at Once in this category? Because if you aren't, I'm dying to know why. I think you're all there. I think we are all pretty much come to terms with, or thrilled about, this film being one of the most awarded films of all time. That's crazy. And it's going to have a very good night. I've got it winning 8, and I know that's ridiculous, but I just can't. I don't know how to. I'm not making changes. I'm done.
I had it at 7, but now I have it at 6. So, which is still for recent history. Yeah. For recent history, I mean, the last few years, I think the Best Picture winner has won 3, 4. I mean, we don't see years like Titanic anymore, or Lord of the Rings, where a film's going to win 10 Oscars. That just doesn't happen anymore. So to get more than 5 is really quite well.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was just going to say it's definitely going to win a ton, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it didn't win as many as people are predicting, because I think most people have landed on 6 now. I do think it's worth mentioning that internationally, the film has really not performed very well. or didn't perform very well. It only got one BAFTA win. It didn't get anything at the ACTA International Awards. It didn't do anything at the London Film Critics Awards. Of course, these really, at the end of the day, you got to sort of weigh the guilds with the international awards. And obviously the guilds, I think, are more foretelling in this case, which is why we all have it around, 5, 6, 7, or in your case, 8. But should it perform below expectations, I do think we would have to look at the international voting bodies as to why that happened.
That's a very good point. I think the international mix, the Academy is way more international than it used to be. It's more diverse. So the diversity may help Everything Everywhere All at Once. The international element may not. Okay, we're bringing in our new panel. I want to thank you all so much for joining us, guys.
Good luck, everyone.
Enjoy
Good
the
luck.
show. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a really good night.
Take care. Have fun.
No, I'm kidding. All right, we've got a new panel here. We've got Tom O'Brien, we've got Ray Richmond, and we are just awaiting Charlie Bright.
Hi, Rob. Happy Oscar Day.
How are you? So good to see you. Charles Bright has arrived. He's already
a little bit of a cold.
I'm drinking, but I'm drinking water, so that's okay. Now, everybody, welcome to the chat. We have Charles Bright. He is literally insane. And I think we should...
Is something going on tonight?
There's something going on tonight, by the way. It's the Kentucky Derby. So let's talk. Can we talk about the Oscars? Latasha, let's go straight into these stats. I think we just had Best Picture up. Let's bring that back on, if we can. Our trusty, amazing producer, Riley, working in the background. What do you think, Latasha? Is this just a blowout? There's no point even discussing it.
I mean, let's definitely discuss, just only because we all have totally different perspectives. Maybe some do, maybe some don't. But according to the odds and the predictions, this is no competition. Everything Everywhere is certainly going home with the win tonight, closely followed by the Banshees of Inisherin as far as a possible upset. There could possibly be a big surprise with All Quiet on the Western Front. I honestly would not be surprised if that happens. But right now, it's all about Everything Everywhere. And I mean, literally look at the gap between this front runner, the entire season. So what do you guys think? Ray, Tom?
Tell me, who's not predicting Everything Everywhere All at Once in this group?
I'm certainly predicting it. I mean, how can you not? It's looking like a juggernaut, and we're going to have a giant. It's going to have a giant night. I know. I just heard you were predicting 8 wins for this, Rob. Yeah. I think it might be more like 6, but and there was a minute there where I was thinking chaos. Let's put All Quiet on the Western Front right at the top, but that's probably not the way to bet. Given the way this thing has performed with the guilds the whole season.
Yeah. I know there is someone in our cohort which is coming on later who is predicting All Quiet on the Western Front. I can't wait to talk to them. I'm going to leave that as a surprise for now. But Tom, I know you're going for Everything Everywhere All at Once, but I actually want to move on to a different category if that's all right with you guys, because I just feel like Best Picture is pretty solid. I think we need to revisit Supporting Actress. Now, Latasha's already shown us the odds. We know this is going to be chaos. We know it's the first award of the night. So relatively briefly, Charlie, I know what you're predicting because we talk about this constantly, but tell us what you're going for in the Supporting Actress and why.
Well, it was interesting. Right after the SAG Awards, we recorded an episode of Gold Derby Roundtable, and I was saying right after SAG, I feel like this is Kerry Condon's to lose. It's enough. It has enough of these variables going everywhere where it feels like going with BAFTA is the safe one. I've heard from certain people that the overlap between BAFTA and the Academy is really staggering, certainly much more than SAG. And so I'm sticking with Kerry Condon on this. I'm not overthinking it, which could be to my detriment. I mean, I honestly I think it's razor's edge between her, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Angela Bassett. But I'm going to stick with Kerry Condon on this one.
Okay, and Ray?
Well, Charlie has been quite obviously, literally and figuratively drinking. So
You gotta stay hydrated.
yes, with alcohol. And I was thinking Angela Bassett for most of the season, and then I switched to Jamie Lee Curtis. Ironically enough, after seeing her at the AARP Movies for Grown-Ups Awards, where she got a Lifetime Achievement Award and gave an amazing speech, and I just figured there were enough voters in that audience that were going to be convinced. I think her overdue narrative is going to overshine Angela Bassett's overdue narrative. It's basically two narratives in one here. But Kerry Condon could slip in if the other two cancel each other out. But I think it's Jamie Lee Curtis. I think she's got the momentum at the end.
Oof, this is so hard. Tom, talk some sentences for us, please.
Well, like Ray, I had Angela Bassett in before SAG and thought, okay, she's got the narrative, she's got the overdue factor, and she's Angela Bassett, for goodness sake. But when she lost BAFTA, which was kind of understandable. Kerry Condon had a home field advantage there. But then when she lost SAG to Curtis, so far she hasn't won any a big award that has Academy voters in it. So I agree. I think it's down to Curtis and Condon. And I may be totally wrong on this because Curtis has been everywhere, has been the main cheerleader for everything everywhere. But I kind of think that Curtis was a SAG thing. She's Hollywood. She's from Hollywood royalty. And I think they were honoring a member of the family. And when we get down to it, I think Condon's going to pull through. So she's my pick.
Wow. I mean, I'd love to see it. I'd be happy for any of these five to win, to be honest. I think we need to talk about Best Actress. We haven't gone there yet. We ran out of time in the last segment, but this one's absolutely a nail biter. And that is because we have Cate Blanchett, who's been in front for such a long time, and now Michelle Yeoh, who seems to have some of the momentum. Latasha, talk us through it, please.
But do you really think it's a nail biter, Rob? Because according to the predictions and the odds,
Ooh.
Michelle has this one in a bag. Look at the odds, 82 to 25. With obviously Cate following somewhat, close behind. So is this a nail biter or just the easy sweep?
Gosh, she really has all the momentum right now, Michelle Yeoh. I mean, she's in a Best Picture frontrunner. She is very overdue for recognition. She is a woman of, she's an Asian actress, which very rarely do they get honored at the Oscars. So there's so much going for her. And then also Cate Blanchett already has two of these beauties. So does she need a third? I think a lot of that is what's playing into this.
I really caution against, pointing out that she already has two, because that's gotten us in trouble before.
Yeah.
Just 2 years ago, obviously, it got a lot of us in trouble that weren't predicting Frances McDormand. And not only did she win Best Actress, less than 5 years after winning her second Oscar, she picked up another one that evening. So she doubled her haul.
Yeah.
Incredible. I know that one I just did not see coming. And so that's why I am not convinced that Michelle Yeoh has this in the bag, notwithstanding what our odds are suggesting. Tom, did you switch to Michelle Yeoh at some point, or are you still with Cate Blanchett?
I did switch to Michelle Yeoh for prediction wise, but this reminds me a lot of the Best Actress race in 2011 when Viola Davis was vying to be the second woman of color to win the Best Actress prize. And she was up and she had momentum going into the Oscar ceremony. And she was up against a legendary actress going for her third Oscar, Meryl Streep. And the parallels between the 2 years are kind of chilling here. Cate Blanchett could pull it out, and I don't think she has to worry about how history is going to rate this performance, because it's one of the great screen performances of the last 20 years, I think. But I think the recent surge in support for Everything Everywhere across the board will be enough to carry Michelle Yeoh across the finish line. So I'm going to predict Michelle Yeoh, but there's a side of me that really wants Cate Blanchett to win too.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. What about you, Ray?
Oh, I thought Tom was going to say, and that's why I'm picking Kate Blanchett.
Hey.
No, I was on. I actually thought it was going to be Andrea Riseborough for a while, that they were just going to completely change everything up. But as the momentum for Everything Everywhere has increased this season, and as Michelle, don't discount the fact that she has literally been everywhere all at once and promoting the hell out of this. She understands how this game is played and has played it very well. Kate is a lot cooler about this. You can see that she's almost a little bit reluctant. And I think Michelle wants it more. And I think voters are going to respond to that. Plus the fact that the Asian American narrative, the fact that she would be the first Asian actress ever to win one of these Best Actress trophies. I think that's all playing into it, and the momentum at the end. I'll be somewhat shocked if Michelle doesn't get it.
Yeah, totally agree. Let's move on. We've got some categories that we're going to be tackling in this segment. Firstly, documentary feature. This one's an interesting one to me. What do you think, Latasha? Talk us through the odds, because this one is by no means is this a sure thing for Navalny, which is what I'm going for. But you tell us. That doesn't look like what I just said.
I am very intrigued by All the Beauty and the Bloodshed and how high up they started this particular race, and just looking at that decrease over the weeks. Obviously, we have Navalny literally at the top, taking it home tonight, according to, obviously like the predictions and the odds. It's quite interesting to see that All the Beauty and the Bloodshed and Fire of Love are literally neck and neck. So this particular race is quite interesting. Yeah, this one should have a lot of people on their toes.
Well, it makes sense kind of that All the Beauty and the Bloodshed was sort of our early frontrunner, because that was really what was doing really well with the critics groups, which honestly is really what all we have to go with before shortlists come out and everything. And there were even some people, myself included, that were not thinking that All the Beauty and the Bloodshed would make it into documentary feature. It missed out on PGA, and it really feels like when it's come to the more industry awards, it's really stumbled there. And that's where we've seen Fire of Love and Navalny sort of bypass that and become our top two in that.
Okay, that's very interesting to me.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I've been sort of on Team Navalny from the beginning, and I'm a little bit surprised that it's risen so far and so quickly. But what it has going for it is obviously the importance narrative. It's the most important of these five. The Academy likes to see itself as somewhat of a political body and politically aware, at least. And this is the choice that will make them look smart. Besides the fact that it's a great film, and this man shouldn't be forgotten. I'm still shocked that he decided, you know what? Hey, after they tried to kill me, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to Russia and hang out there for a while. It's a fascinating story. And Fire of Love, though, it's a little bit of a neck and neck race, but I think Navalny's being in first place is. I think Gold Derby voters are right on the money with this.
That combination of BAFTA and not DGA but the PGA win for Navalny, to me, is the real cementing of that. It's the perfect combination of that industry support, of overall people with BAFTA, and then specifically producers showing that there's a good overlap there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense as well. Tom, I feel like All the Beauty and the Bloodshed had quite a lot of momentum until some of these precursors. It's also an important film. They all pretty much have something really interesting to say. But Tom, are you thinking Navalny has this as well?
It's not in the bag at all. I think that Fire of Love has an enormous emotional pull, and it did win the DGA, which is no small thing. But I think the combination of BAFTA and PGA for Navalny, in addition to the fact that it's a tremendous movie. It's exciting. It works as a thriller, which not that many docs are able to use. And this shouldn't be a factor, but I think that the Academy occasionally likes to make a political statement or two, and they would make it with this one. And and the fact that Navalny's family is going to be in the audience tonight.
Really? Wow. Speaking of who's going to be at the show tonight, we just found out not long ago that, by our very good friend Jazz Tange, who broke for Variety, that Lady Gaga will, after all, be performing Hold My Hand. Everybody calm down. Everybody rejoice, because Gaga is going to be on the show. So let's talk about song, because for most of the season, many people have suggested that Natu Natu is well out in front and this is going to be a complete lock. But I'm not one of those people. So Latasha, talk us through the odds.
So particularly with Best Song, I think we can just, according to the odds, let's just go on to the next category, right? Because based on what the voters say, RRR certainly, like, this is it, it's done, it's over, no competition. You know, so and this has been literally all Oscar season. You know, and it's quite interesting because all of the nominees seem to have coasted along on the exact same trajectory for the most part from beginning up until today. But will there be an upset? Because that is always possible.
Absolutely. And the thing is, this is my argument for maybe not Natu Natu. And by the way, if that wins, I will be thrilled. I'll be applauding and giving a standing ovation. But it's a really great sequence in the film. But as a song, I'm not suggesting necessarily that it's the best written song of the group. That's just what I'm thinking could be a factor. And somebody, I think it was MJS in our comments, suggested, was this Gaga delay a stunt? Yes, I think it was a stunt, because it's just been, I think it's just trying to drum up interest in the show. I think it's going to be really great to have all five sung on the show tonight. And I feel like Gaga and Rihanna are absolutely right there, possibly taking this award. And even David Byrne sung Locks for Everything Everywhere All at Once. You know, guys, isn't there a stat about in the song or the score category, if there's a Best Picture nominated film, that usually it takes one of those two awards.
If they're nominated for both original score and original song, they usually win one of them.
Well, that's huge for Everything Everywhere All at Once, isn't it, Charlie?
No, that would bode well. It's just the question is, which one is it more likely to occur in? And that I honestly have no clue.
Wow, because lately there's been a lot of pop music performers winning in this category, like Sam Smith, like Billie Eilish, like Adele. Maybe Rihanna does have this for Black Panther. I'm actually thinking Lady Gaga is the one that we need to really be paying attention to. So what do you think, Tom? I'm kind of confused about this category.
Me too. We rarely, usually when there's a superstar in it, they have that as an advantage. Now we have two superstars of equal magnitude going against each other. And I'm just wondering whether that's going to cancel each other out. Right. The dark horse, I think, in this category is the Everything Everywhere song. It's David Byrne, a former winner. And if there is an Everything Everywhere sweep, this could get swept in. And that I think is a possibility. I still think it's going to be Natu Natu. I think that anybody who sees Natu Natu in the context of the film and on the Academy portal, it's seen in the context of the film, will be knocked out by the whole thing. Is it the deepest song that would ever win? No. But nonetheless, I think the entire production sequence is what people are going to vote for. So I'm saying put my money on Natu Natu, but look out for Everything Everywhere.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And Ray, what about you? Oh, is Ray with us? Yes. No. There he is.
I'm sorry. I totally agree with Tom. This is Natu Natu. Anybody that saw RRR understands that this is it was so intrinsic to the plot. It's exciting and fun, and it's going to knock everyone's socks off during the live show. I just don't see it losing. I think that despite the huge superstar element of the other nominees, I just think a lot of people think that the film got screwed for international because it didn't because India didn't put it up as a contender, and I think they're going to want to reward it in part based on that.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point too. Okay, we need to move on.
I just want to say quickly about Natu that it's one of these things, and you'll see this come up with a lot of discussions with a lot of categories. It has the passion, and there's no clear alternative. When you add those two together, I think that adds up to a very likely win for it.
Yeah.
All right, Latasha. Chris Beecham, our fearless leader, has just mentioned to us that we have over 10,600 people predicting in our prediction center, which is 1,100 more than last year, which is a new record. The prediction center shuts down at 4:45 p.m. Pacific time. So everybody, you better get those predictions in, otherwise you're going to miss out. Latasha, take us to animated feature, if you will, because this one's really not a mystery, is it?
Not at all. Not at all. Again, one of the most exciting categories. According to the odds, there is no competition there. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, I mean, they are all the way at the top. Has been from the beginning of this particular season, obviously. And again, this is another category in race where you see the exact same constant trajectory with every single contender. I am interested to see if there's an upset in this category, particularly with Puss in Boots. That's me personally. So, but I guess we'll see. We'll have to see.
I just still cannot quite believe how Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, this sequel, has really touched so many people. Like, you never would have thought that. That wasn't on my bingo card for the year, and yet it's a nominee, and it's such a beautiful film. But I think we're all pretty comfortable with Pinocchio taking this one out. And if that's okay with everybody, I think we might even move on in our discussion, because we're really running out of time. We need to talk about the shorts, because this is where you can make or break in terms of your Oscar pool. And I think, Charlie, you have a lot to say about the shorts, because you've not only interviewed so many people from them, but also you've seen most of them, right? So talk us through this.
I'll start from the most confident one. I think in live action short, I'm feeling pretty good about An Irish Goodbye. I know a lot of people have Le Pupille as the front runner, and it kind of makes sense. It has the established names behind it, like Alice Rohrwacher, who's a very long time known Italian film director, and Alfonso Cuarón, who this could potentially be his 6th Oscar, I believe, because he didn't technically take home the one for Rome for international feature. But Irish Goodbye, it's to me it's the most accessible. I found it just so genuinely funny and just very nice and uplifting. It's like an uplifting version of Banshees almost. Watch out for Red Suitcase, though. That one has a great thriller component to it. Also has a bit of the edge of being a relevant one in terms of talking about a relevant topic. Going to animated short, I'm sticking with The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. It's a very tough one because Apple has been pushing that one so hard. They've been hosting screenings of it at Apple stores across California. They've been really pushing this one, although I know a lot of people have basically, if they've been rolling their eyes at it, that's the more mild form of criticism that I've heard about it. I heard someone describe the dialogue of that movie as fortune cookie wisdom, and I think they have a point, which is something that even though I was tearing up at the end of it, I'm like, this is kind of okay, what else? But the other thing about that one is it's 32 minutes long. Long animated shorts don't usually win here. Now, what a lot of people might consider the second place one is My Year of Dicks. That one is over 20 minutes. That one is over 20 minutes as well, and that's a very tough thing for it to overcome. It has a lot of heart to it, and a lot of people might think, okay, well, crazy titles win here, and what crazier title could be My Year of Dicks? Well, I'll tell you, it's An Ostrich Told Me the World is Fake, and I Think I Believe It. That's a Student Academy Award winning film. And that's only 11 minutes long. But then again, it incorporates the live action thing to it. But that may have hurt it more getting a nomination than a win. Ice Merchants, I know, has a lot of love for it. So really, I think almost any of these four, unfortunately, I think Flying Sailor is probably a non-factor into this one. But I'm sticking with Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. I also relate to that mole and its endless quest for cake.
Yeah,
that's
don't we all?
That especially if it's Tres Leches cake. Oh God, I will demolish people to get to that Tres Leches cake. And then for documentary feature, it feels like it's a really tough one. It's, to me, as I've said before, it's a heart in the head thing. Heart says Elephant Whispers. It's so adorable. It's just it's just such an endearing thing. The elephants are cute as hell, even though at times you see them with the chains around their foot, and I'm like, oh, that doesn't look great. But then there's Stranger at the Gate, which touches on a very important subject matter. The subject matter of extremism is something that is very, very prescient right now. We see it with, although it's not against Muslims, we see a lot of extreme bills coming out of state legislatures in states like Tennessee and Arkansas and Mississippi towards the LGBT community, and I think that factors into it. It's a really tough one. I think it's a coin toss. I'm going with Stranger at the Gate, though.
Wow. Okay. Does anyone have
We don't need to talk about anything else. That's it.
Because I'm exhausted. Anything to add? No.
Great breakdown, Charlie. Great breakdown.
Great breakdown. Thank you. I think before we bring in our new panel, we need to talk about Best Actor as well.
I was going to say thank you.
Yeah, let's talk about that because we've got this 2-horse race, but I'm going for Colin Farrell, and I have a feeling that I may have people joining me. I'm not sure. Ray, talk us through what you're doing for Best Actor, please.
I've been on Team Brendan Fraser from the beginning. I just feel like as much as the film itself has been a mixed bag in terms of critical response and as a box office draw, I just feel like his performance is beyond reproach. It's phenomenal. I know that there are also some people that thought they should have hired a 600-pound person to do it, which is a little bit ridiculous.
I turned them down. That was the problem.
I'm not going to touch that one. I understand. They've both been out there hustling and pushing very hard. They're both incredible performers, Brendan and Austin Butler, and boy, it's neck and neck on Gold Derby, and I just feel like it's going to be Brendan at the buzzer.
All right. What about you? How about we go with Tom?
Go to Tom.
Well, if I was an Academy voter, I'd be with you, Rob, on Colin Farrell. I'm Team Farrell emotionally. When he lost the BAFTA on his home turf, that was like, ooh. And he has now lost both that and SAG. So like Angela Bassett, he hasn't won any major award that involves Academy members. On the other hand, anecdotally, I've been hearing so many in these anonymous voter things for what they're worth, talk about it, that they're going to vote for him. That would really predicate an even split between Brendan Fraser and Austin Butler, which could happen because Butler won the BAFTA and Fraser won SAG. Fraser's speeches have been really remarkable, very emotional, and I can very easily see him being up there holding that statue tonight. But I'm by a slight hair, I'm going to predict Austin Butler.
All right. And what about you, Charlie, before we cross over to Latasha to take us through the odds? What do you think, Charlie?
I'm sticking with Austin Butler on this. Although I don't think you are very crazy to be predicting Colin Farrell. I really think this is a legitimate 3-person race. The idea of Colin Farrell gives me vibes of 2002 with, Adrian Brody winning over Daniel Day-Lewis and Jack Nicholson. But I do kind of just narrowly think it's going to be Butler, but I'm not confident, but I've just decided to just predict Butler and stay the hell away from the category.
Yeah, I hear you. Riley, let's have a look at those. Latasha, this looks like it could be the closest.
It literally, yeah, Rob. It literally looks it's I don't know. I don't think literally this particular race has me absolutely speechless. right? Butler and Fraser are literally neck and neck. I personally am a little bit surprised to see Farrell so far down. I definitely think this is going to be a 3-person race. But again, just like you guys are half Butler, half Fraser, apparently, according to the odds, everyone else is also. And let's also look at the difference in the votes. You know, we have like 4,699 people, 4,699 people going for Butler, you know, and 4,603 going for Brandon. Like, how close is that?
That's like what?
It's less than 100 people. That's 96 people. That's the 96 people difference.
That's really close, and that should tell us something. Yeah, that's really interesting. We're going to have to bring in our new panel. So we're going to bid adieu to Charles Bright, Tom O'Brien, and Ray Richmond. Thank you so much for your insights, gentlemen, and enjoy the show tonight. It's going to be so much fun.
Thanks, Rob. This was fun.
I'm not going anywhere.
Get out. Now, we have a whole new panel to welcome. We've got David Buchanan, welcome. Marcus James Dixon with your beautiful bow tie. And someone that we're just joining for the first time, Susan Pennington. Welcome to the chat, Susan. It's so great to see you.
Thank you.
Now, before we move on, everybody, I think we need to just cover off some of these other categories so that every category gets some time. And let's go to supporting actor. This one's not going to be a big surprise. I think we feel pretty comfortable, don't we, Latasha?
Yes, definitely with this one. Key top runner, period, according to the odds. Listen, Barry could possibly upset this particular category based off the predictions, but right now, look at the difference in the votes. We have nearly 10,000 people rooting for Key to take that Oscar home compared to Barry's 106. So, I mean,
we're done here,
right? You know,
he's been in the lead from the very beginning, and he's won pretty much everything except for the BAFTA, which was Barry Keoghan. Ke Huy Quan, you're going to be an Oscar winner soon, I'm pretty sure, and I'm very excited about that. I'm wondering though, Marcus, David, Susan, do any of you see an upset here? I'm expecting you to all to just go like this and say no. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so let's move on to Best Picture though, before we do anything else, because we have a bit of a surprise here. And that is Marcus James Dixon. Ballsy choice. Talk us through, Marcus, what you're doing in Best Picture, would you?
Well, first of all, it's no fun to just go with the odds every year. I think, Rob, you and I come from the same cloth in that respect. You're going on a couple limbs. I'm going on a couple limbs. And when I looked at Best Picture, you know, Everything Everywhere has won pretty much everything this whole season. But it never competed against All Quiet on the Western Front at any of those shows, not at SAG, PGA, DGA, Writers Guild, Golden Globes, Critics' Choice. None of these guilds. It didn't compete against that movie at all, except for at one place, and that was BAFTA. So I'm like, well, we know what happens when these two movies go against each other. All Quiet absolutely dominates. So for that reason, I switched to All Quiet. And then I started hearing other things of Oscar voters saying they hated Everything Everywhere. They couldn't stand it. They're voting at 10th and 9th and 8th. And I'm like, that kind of added to what I was already thinking. So I admit this is wild and I'm probably going to be wrong, and that's fine. But on the off chance that I'm right, I just have to go for it. I have to.
This is how I feel about Colin Farrell. And so I love it when people go out on a limb, and I'm here for it, mate. And I hope you're right, just so that you can lord it, and I know you will, lord it over us until the end. We'll be old people with like
until the end of time.
Frames,
yes,
and you will still be talking about this. I assume, David and Susan, that you're pretty much comfortable with Everything Everywhere All at Once in Best Picture. I don't really think we need to go there anymore. I think we get it. But we've talked about supporting actor. Let's talk about, again, supporting actress, because it's the one category that is really stumping everybody. And it's the first category of the night. It's going to be a big one. We're all going to be so excited. Susan, how do you feel about supporting actress? Who do you think's going to win and why?
Well, I've been bouncing back and forth between Jamie and Angela, I think like everybody else has been. But I think I'm going with Carrie Condon. And the reason why is because I think Banshees was a great movie. I really liked that movie. And its strongest points are the acting and the writing. And it's up for 9 major awards. And I think it's going to be rewarded somewhere. And I think people are split maybe between the Jamie and Angela thing. And they may go, I want to reward Banshee somewhere. And I think if it gets rewarded somewhere, it's either going to be this category or screenplay.
Wow. Okay. Look, I think that's a really compelling argument. I mean, it's a really simple one. It's like Banshees is not going home empty-handed. A lot of people are saying that. And Carrie Condon, she does have a BAFTA to her name. So we have to be very conscious of that. David, how do you feel about that?
I have Carrie too. I think in many of these tight races, especially in acting, I'm deferring to BAFTA just because of how much overlap, of all these groups. SAG I know came later in the season, and BAFTA is usually after SAG, and this year it wasn't. But the overlap between the SAG voters and the Academy is really quite small, whereas BAFTA is a more representative group. So in this case, I am deferring to Carrie. I think Angela losing the SAG was a really kind of an insurmountable defeat at that moment. And I really think, the benefit inures to Carrie in that instance rather than Jamie Lee, even though Jamie Lee took the SAG, just because we know how popular Jamie Lee's film is. The SAG is becoming a more and more popular organization. I don't want to read too much into the wins of SAG. I might be overcorrecting and kind of ignoring SAG at my own peril in some of the categories, but I do think Carrie's going to win. And I have moved off of Banshees and screenplay. Originally, I had Banshees winning screenplay, as Susan was saying, screenplay and supporting actress. I've been convinced that Everything Everywhere is going to win screenplay as well as directing and Best Picture. I think it's going to take all 3. But I am going to stick with Carrie as the kind of representative win for Banshees. Okay,
that's very interesting. Now, we have Marcus going out on a limb again. I remember because Marcus and I pretty much chat almost every day. And about 3 weeks ago, I was saying to him, hey, mate, I'm actually getting really worried about Angela Bassett. And he's like, no. It's all good. She's got this. And I've just been feeling worse and worse. Now I'm on the JLC train. Marcus, you've never left Angela Bassett's side, have you?
In my head, I think Carrie Condon is winning. But in my heart and in my predictions at Gold Derby, I have Angela. Listen, I don't like that she lost BAFTA. I don't like that she lost SAG. Those were 2, especially SAG. She should have won SAG. I know that. We all know that. And the fact that she didn't, I am worried. And have we announced the order of the show yet? This is the first category.
It's the first one.
So this will be a make it or break it for a lot of people's predictions. I still think it's Angela. When I watched Banshees, I just wasn't blown away by Carrie's performance like I was when I watched Black Panther. I watched it with Latasha. We were at a SAG screening, right? And the people in the crowd went crazy every time.
They were going crazy over Angela, absolutely crazy over it. And that was literally at the very first screening.
It was October. And I've had her at number 1 since October. I can't go back now. I can't.
You can't. We got to move on. So let's talk about cinematography. It's actually a category that's giving me a lot of heartburn. I'm going out on a limb on this one, but let's have a look at the odds, Latasha. What is the Gold Derby odds telling us here?
The odds are certainly pointing towards All Quiet on the Western Front.
Wow.
Look at the difference in the amount of votes. We have 8,200 plus votes compared to Elvis, who is expected to possibly upset this race with 1,069 votes. And again, Rob, this is another category that looks at the trajectory of where each of these nominees have been from the beginning of Oscar season up until today, Oscar night. So will there be an upset with Elvis? Who knows? But as of now, All Quiet, the win belongs to them, according to the prediction.
According to them. And you know what? I find that really strange that Elvis is not more of a contender according to our odds, because Mandy Walker, the amazing Australian cinematographer, won the ASC last weekend, the first woman to do it, and could now be the first woman to win the Oscar in cinematography. And she seems quite behind James Friend from All Quiet on the Western Front. So what do you guys think, David? What do you think about cinematography? It's a head scratcher.
I have Elvis because of the ASC win, and here's why. Not that All Quiet can't win; it certainly can, and it's way out front in our odds. But every time I try to predict this, and I don't go with ASC in the last few years, ASC has been right. They had Dune over Power of the Dog last year, where I was with Power of the Dog, thinking it was going to win cinematography and director. And they had Mank over Nomadland the year prior. Again, I was predicting Nomadland to go with its Best Picture and director win. So at this point, you know, it's the last 2 years, which were kind of upsets. I don't know where exactly they were in the odds, but I don't know if we had both Mank and Dune in first place in our odds. But after 2 years of getting it right, especially when there were kind of somewhat upsets, I'm going with them. I'm going to stick with Elvis, even though it really trails in our odds. But that's where I think it's going to shake out.
Fascinating. Now, Susan, I'm going for Tar in this one. I think Florian Hofmeister's work is so undeniable that he will just squeeze out a win. Now, it's wishful thinking. Susan, where are you headed on cinematography? Because it's up in the air.
I guess I'm with the majority. I just think All Quiet was a beautifully shot film. A lot of it, its strength is in the visuals on that film. But I do think Elvis can come in and, again, with the win it's already had, come in and upset it. But All Quiet on the Western Front is just visually a beautiful movie. And a lot of movies that win the cinematography are outdoorsy films. I say outdoorsy, but are filmed outdoor. And I just think that gives it a little extra edge in there. So I'm sticking with All Quiet on that one.
Okay. I mean, to be honest, if All Quiet wins, I'll be very happy for that as well. It's just such a strong category. It's so interesting that the maestro, Roger Deakins, said a few days ago at a benefit for him that he thinks Greg Fraser should have been nominated and won for The Batman. I totally agree with that. I'm thinking our colleague Sam Eckmann would also agree with that too. Let's talk about sound and editing. They actually go together quite often, don't they? Before we go into the discussion, I'm going to go to Marcus on the discussion of sound and editing. Latasha, take us through the odds on both categories, if you will.
Let's do it. So again, this is another category that Everything Everywhere All at Once is sitting on top in the predictions and the odds, with a possible upset with Top Gun Maverick. I definitely think we should talk more about Top Gun Maverick and whether or not this is a realistic upset.
Yeah. It's interesting how there's a swap there not long ago.
Yeah.
I think, Everything Everywhere, Paul Rogers, he won the BAFTA for editing. It was the only award that Everything Everywhere All at Once won at the BAFTAs. And it seems to be that there was this funny narrative. I mean, we're all trying to find things to joke about, but Paul Rogers is the hot editor. He's a good looking guy. And so he's had a lot of attention, and that doesn't hurt. But Top Gun Maverick, I would have thought would have just been a complete blowout, win this without any discussion. And if we look at sound, if you put that up, Riley, and Latasha can show us the odds there, I mean, look at that. Top Gun's way out in front.
Absolutely, way in front. I mean, but again, like even just look at Avatar, Elvis, and The Batman. Let's just give them a little bit of attention, right? They have been like hosting along so low on the totem pole, no pun intended, according to the predictions. So, I mean, obviously there will be a ton of people who will be extremely taken aback if either of those three nominees upset this particular race tonight.
Absolutely. Now, Marcus, isn't there a correlation with sound and editing?
Generally, yeah, I guess I would have to go back and look at the specifics, but film editing is one where I did switch. I think it was after BAFTA, because BAFTA as I mentioned earlier, they didn't really like Everything Everywhere. It kind of got cremated there, except for this one phoenix, right, rose out of the ashes, film editing. And that's when I switched to it. And then it did win the Ace Eddie Award for comedy, but Top Gun won it for drama. So I kind of like that. You know, we don't know for sure who's going to win this. I think Everything Everywhere is the safe bet, though. And then sound is one that I've had on Top Gun, I think the whole season. And Daniel Montgomery put it best in a slugfest we did. He's like, it's the vroom vroom of the jet planes that you remember when you leave that theater. It's the loud screeching of the fighters. And I guess that stuck with me. And I'm not even really considering that category as something I would maybe change.
Wow. David, do you feel like there's any chance of an upset in these two categories?
Yeah, I mean, I have Everything Everywhere for editing. I just think even if you just think about singular moments of films throughout this season, you know, those kind of moments of Michelle Yeoh's character flashing in all of the different multiverses, like that is so brilliantly edited. Just that singular moment, I think people will remember. And that's the kind of thing that I think wins awards. So I have it in editing. Wouldn't be surprised if it didn't win, but since it's so far out front for Best Picture, you know, this is a highly correlated category, really important, you know, nomination to get if you're on the way to Best Picture. I think it could win this category. Sound, I have Top Gun as well. Although if we're going to look for an All Quiet sweep, especially if Marcus, you know, is right on Best Picture and it's going to win Best Picture, you know, you would think a war film would have pretty good odds in, you know, the sound category. So I would have that, you know, in no lower than probably second under Top Gun.
Okay. Susan, how do you feel about these two categories?
I'm agreeing pretty much with everybody else. Whoever edited everywhere is, I admire them because that movie's crazy, and I loved it, and they deserve it, quite honestly, in my opinion. But I can see Top Gun. It's kind of got a sentimental. If they were going for a sentimental pick, I could see them picking Top Gun. So I can see it upsetting it. But I think the editing and everywhere is just, I don't think you can top that.
Yeah, it feels like it's just so undeniable. It's, again, the most editing, the most sound, the most costumes. They do tend to do that in the Academy, either out of laziness or maybe it's, you know, it's also a lack of expertise. You know, we've got like cinematographers who are voting for the best costumes and they just vote for what they think looks the best or sounds the best or is the most. And so that's a very important, sometimes we overthink this stuff. And, you know, when Susan's saying something like, you know, it's just so much great editing and Everything Everywhere all at once and so obvious, that's probably what a lot of Academy voters are thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and there's also a fun stat that the original Top Gun 36 years ago lost Best Sound twice. There was a Best Sound Effects editing that lost to Aliens, and Best Sound it lost to Platoon. So if it wins Best Sound tonight, that's kind of like avenging the loss of 36 years ago.
Oh, now I want it to win even more. That's a great stat. All right, we should move on to actress because it, you know, this has been going on for weeks. Is it Cate Blanchett? Is it Michelle Yeoh? Then, you know, we had Andrea Riseborough make a surprise appearance, which I thought was one of the greatest moments on any Academy Awards nomination.
You predicted it.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me that little bit of credit because I certainly did. Okay. By show of hands, who is predicting Cate Blanchett in this group? Anybody? No. Oh, David, talk us through it.
You know, this is such a coin toss, and there's a few reasons behind why I'm sticking with Cate. I agree with everybody that the momentum since SAG and the Independent Spirit Awards is so with Michelle. So I don't want to discount that. I understand why she's far out front. But I also think the kind of rush to switch to Michelle, I don't know if any of our editors, maybe one has Cate left. You know, I don't want to overcorrect based on SAG, which we all thought, or most people thought Michelle would win SAG. So I don't want to overcorrect. And I think everybody is kind of potentially overcorrecting when it really is, I think, a coin toss of a race. I also think BAFTA, as I said earlier, you know, in a lot of these tight races, I'm defaulting to BAFTA just because of how much that voting body overlaps with the Oscars versus the huge SAG voting body, doesn't quite overlap nearly as much. So for that reason, I'm going with Kate. I, would not be surprised by either of these winners. I think they'll both be phenomenal winners. I'll be happy regardless of who wins, two really incredible performances. But because of BAFTA and because I'm wary of kind of following SAG too closely, I'm going to stick with Kate until the envelope is open.
Wow. Okay. You know what? I respect that because I think this is as much of a slam dunk as what our predictions are suggesting. And thank you, Riley, for bringing that up on the screen. So Joyce is going to have
Joyce is back.
Explaining to do, but unfortunately, she's not joining us until the post show. When in doubt, you just go and check Joyce Eng's predictions. Just Susan, so you're predicting Michelle Yeoh. Are you feeling confident, or are you in two minds?
I'm not at all confident. And it's been a little over 30 years ago since another Kate won her third Oscar in a tie, when Kate Hepburn and Barbara Streisand tied. And I would love to see a tie tonight. I think both of them are deserving. And I guess when it gets down to where there's two that are so close, I try to think like a voter. And I think if I were voting, because I think they both deserve it, I guess I would look at, and I hate to say this, but Kate's won two and Michelle has not. And since they're both deserving, I would probably go with the one that has not won yet. And that's really the only reason why I'm picking Michelle. They're both just, in terms of their performance, neck and neck for me. But I would love to see a tie. It's been a long time since we've had a acting tie, and this would be a perfect time for it.
Yeah, I want to see a tie too. In fact, I'm going to get pulverized for this, but I would love to see Andrea Riseborough win, to be honest. I thought that was such an amazing performance. I've been a fan of hers for like years, such a great journey woman. And but that's not going to happen, I don't think. All right, so let's talk about, has anyone not had a chance to talk about actress yet? I think we're good, right? We're all covered. Marcus,
yeah, I don't have much to add. I will say that if history is made tonight for Michelle Yeoh, that will be a moment that people will talk about for decades. Like, we're still talking about Halle Berry's moment from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Very true.
If Halle Berry and Jessica Chastain are presenting the Actor and Actress Awards, so I think some of us are suggesting that could be the case. I feel like they're doing what they did when they thought Chadwick Boseman was going to win by preempting this and having Halle Berry present the Oscar to Michelle Yeoh, and I just don't like it when they do that. I just feel like they're trying to manufacture a moment. What if it is Cate Blanchett? Does that mean it's just weird to me? Anyway, I'm just guessing. Who knows who the hell's presenting? There's probably going to be some surprise presenters tonight. Actually, we don't actually.
And those categories are back to back. Best actor and best actress are the final three of the night, with Best Picture being the final third, the final one.
I was thinking that they might be doing combining certain categories like they've done in the past to save time, instead of shunting categories offline or off air, being more inclusive, but just trying to figure out more innovative ways to keep the show as tight as possible, because it is on ABC and they do have a deadline to meet. They don't want to have to go over time. They're obsessed with that. Just as a memo to the Academy and to the producers tonight, please don't play off any winners unless they're really boring and they're just reading a note. But if they're giving us something like an emotional acceptance speech, or they're talking from the heart, or they're being controversial, let them finish. And if anyone decides to slap anyone tonight, can you throw them out? Just throw. I don't want to see this happen again.
No standing ovations either for slapping.
I don't want to see. Yes,
standing ovation.
I don't think we need to be encouraging any more violence. So if that would be great, and I want to see political speeches, and I want tears, and I want laughter, and you can throw out an F-bomb. Do what you got to do, but no slapping. All right, so let's talk about Best Actor. That is also completely and utterly up in the air. As you know, I'm going for Colin Farrell. I'm probably wrong. I don't care. That's what I'm going for. So we've got Brendan Fraser and basically Austin Butler neck and neck. Show of hands, who is going for Austin Butler in this group?
Uh-oh, I think he's frozen.
Rob?
Why don't you guys explain why you're going with Austin? Susan, do you want to go first?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm coming from Tupelo, Mississippi, so, you know, but home of Elvis. But he blew me away. It wasn't, when I first saw a picture of him, I thought he does not look like Elvis. And when I saw the performance, and I was with a group of several women when we went to see this movie, he captured Elvis. There's something special about Elvis that made people love him, and Austin captured that. And it just blew me away. I think Brandon gave a really good performance as well. It's a tight race. And I'll be honest, I think Colin's a dark horse. I would not be surprised because I liked Banshees. Colin was an unexpected delight for me, I guess is the right way to say it, in that movie. He played a character like I've never seen him play before, and I thought he was excellent. So I would not be surprised if he kind of came in there and won it. But I loved Austin and Elvis, and I just think he deserves it.
And David?
I think it's a performance that the Academy seems to love too, in terms of, you know, biopic, musical biopic. He's performing the material. And Elvis is, as we've been discussing earlier, is going to win quite a few trophies tonight. I think it's certainly, you know, not really in the conversation for Best Picture. I wouldn't rank it in the top two, but it's going to have pockets of support. It's going to have enough support in some categories to win. And I think certainly if you're voting for it in costume, cinematography, perhaps production design, you know, there are people that are also going to be voting for Austin just because the film has much more support than The Whale. I think the fact that The Whale missed Best Picture, even though it had PGA, it missed adapted screenplay, which a lot of people were predicting, you know, not to say that Brendan can't do it, you know, certainly he can. And I do think it's a close race, but, you know, it's those little signs that the support wasn't strong enough to get in other places. You'd have to really overcompensate for that lack just by how much they love him. And that's possible. You know, he's certainly an endearing actor and person, and the performance is transformative. But I think the kind of overall support for Elvis is going to just help push Austin over the finish line.
I can't stand this category. This category is so, we have Rob back, is so back and forth for me. Like, I think I had Brendan winning at BAFTA, which was wrong. I think I had Austin winning at SAG, which was wrong. So now I have Brendan winning at the Oscars. So knowing that, I'm probably wrong. I should just switch, right? I should switch to Austin, especially because I do have Elvis winning makeup. And we've all talked about this correlation between makeup and acting awards. So I don't know. Rob, remind us, who do you have for actor?
Just in case you were wondering, I'm going for Colin Farrell. I just have this feeling, and I know feelings don't matter anymore, but he won the Globe. He has been nominated across the board. He has all the critics' prizes you could possibly ask for. He's in a Best Picture nominated film, which with a lot of support across the board. And I think that Brendan Fraser and Austin Butler will pull a lot of votes from each other, and because there's not just this one leader. And Colin Farrell, I just feel like he does have quite a lot of support. He won the Gold Derby Award, by the way, and he won that pretty comfortably. Banshees is beloved. I feel like if people are predicting Kerry Condon because she won the BAFTA, great. But what about Colin Farrell? I know he lost the BAFTA, but I just think that that could have been close. And I'm pretty confident that Colin Farrell's got this. And if he does, great, I get all the credit. If he doesn't, who cares? No one's going to remember that.
You'll have bragging rights for years. Who do you have in second place?
In second place, I have Austin Butler. So I've had Austin Butler for some time and only switched a few days ago, as you know, Marcus, when I was like umming and ahhing, you're like, just do it. And I'm like, okay, I will. Austin Butler makes a lot of sense to me because it's so transformative. I know a lot of the older demographic love that film and love that performance and remember Elvis, and love Elvis. That movie's going to do really well tonight. And I think Brendan Fraser has some narrative, but he is in a film that didn't do as well with the Academy as what we had thought. And I think it's actually quite a divisive performance. I know a lot of people have told me that they didn't love the film, and it's confronting, and maybe that might be just enough to get some of those steak eaters to vote for Butler or Farrell. So that's where I'm at, everybody. It's a really tough one. So if we go along though, I mean, we've pretty much now talked about all the major categories and we're ready to unfortunately punt you all out. So I want to thank you for joining us. Have a great night. Enjoy the show. That's the main thing now. It is what it is. You're just going to have to enjoy the show. So see you later.
Bye, guys.
How you doing?
How are you going? All right, I'm just trying to get back to this. Does that work? No. Okay. All right. So we have Christopher Tsang joining us. Welcome. So great to see you. We have 15 minutes left to predict the show tonight, to predict the winners tonight, everybody. So that's super exciting. We're just still waiting for Daniel Montgomery. I know that Matt Noble's going to be a little late, so we'll just hang around and wait for him. So while I've got you, Chris, let's just ask Latasha about Best Director, because the odds seem to have been in flux for a little while, but I think we've settled on a front runner, haven't we, Latasha?
Yes. So for Best Director, this category, the Daniels are most certainly on top. And look at that vote difference between the Daniels for Everything Everywhere All at Once compared to Steven Spielberg for The Fabelmans. We are looking at 8,565 votes compared to 1,149. Although it is still somewhat of a close race, but I have to repeat myself again. Just one other category that everyone seemed to have coasted along the same path with not too much of a shift, but the Daniels, they are extremely, extremely high up there. But there could be an upset.
So, all right, let's just talk some sense into these odds. Daniel, what do you think about, by the way, I appreciate the bow tie. I knew that was coming. Thankfully, you did not disappoint. What do you think about director? Is there any
photo negatives? He had the dark shirt and the light tie.
Yeah, I know that you guys coordinated that on offline. So I think this is perfect. Daniel, are the Daniels guaranteed an Oscar tonight for directing?
I don't know if I'd say it's a guarantee, but it's probably the safest of their three categories between picture, director, and screenplay. Screenplay, they've got a tough race with Banshees. Best Picture, there's the chance of All Quiet on the Western Front, but that's not nominated for Best Director. So I think directing is probably the safest bet for the Daniels. I think they're pretty. It would be a pretty big upset if anyone, even a Steven Spielberg, were to beat them.
Okay, that's fascinating. So in that case, I don't know. I'm just not convinced. Like, Chris, talk us through director. For some reason, I'm just feeling some doubt here.
Yeah, that was me until DGA. I thought, that Spielberg would win that, or it's pretty much him or the Daniels. But after DGA is rarely wrong. And Daniel's right, it is the safest category of the three. If it loses that, it doesn't win the other two. I would be very shocked if it did. I think they're pretty much that default front runner. Even if they lose Best Picture, I think they'll win this, and it might be a split. But who knows?
Well, okay. I don't know, man. It's just a tough one. I don't think it's as locked in as what we're thinking. Let's talk about one of the categories we've already talked about ad nauseum, but I feel like we just need to just touch on it this one more time, and that is Best Supporting Actress. It's the number one category in terms of people losing their mind over what the hell's going to happen, and it's the first category of the night. Latasha's showing us the odds here, and Latasha, you've been saying all night that Kerry Condon's in front here, right?
Yes.
But I mean,
she definitely is, but there are quite a few people who are anticipating that there could be an upset with Angela Bassett for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. So, I mean, there are also a ton of people rooting for Jamie Lee Curtis in the predictions, but these odds are pretty intriguing, to say the least. But this is always one of the most exciting categories of every award show.
Oh, I totally agree. I'm not really pumped to see who's going to take this home. Chris Beecham has just told us offline that they've changed the order of the ceremony. I don't know what's going on there. That's weird. But it's actually going to be animated feature first, then supporting actor, then supporting actress. And maybe even those two categories will be presented together. So we're going to get two categories that we feel pretty comfortable with. And then we're going to get the big one, Best Supporting Actress. Daniel, what are you predicting and why in Best Supporting Actress?
I'm actually changing my tune from I recorded the Gold Derby podcast, and then we had our slugfest. Some of the editors. I had Angela Bassett then. I've got Kerry Condon now. Every time I try and defend my Angela Bassett pick, I ended up giving a dozen reasons why Kerry Condon's going to win instead. So I finally decided just to go for it. The fact that she won BAFTA, the fact that there are two actors in here with an overdue narrative, so there's no one clear choice to go with if you want to give it to someone who's overdue. The fact that Jamie Lee Curtis is up against a co-star, which could potentially hurt her, even though it wasn't a problem at the SAG Awards. The fact that Angela Bassett's in a Marvel movie, which could hurt her, although she got the nomination, so it might not be that big of a setback for her. But Banshees of Inisherin is also the most popular of the other than Everything Everywhere All at Once of those films with the Academy overall. So I'm betting it's going to be her. I think she's going to pull Juliette Binoche, where the younger European actress wins over the overdue narrative. So that's where I'm at with it, and I'll probably be wrong.
Oof. You're probably wrong. Who knows? We're all wrong at this point. Chris, who are you going for supporting again? Sorry, I don't know if you
I've always had Kerry Condon since BAFTA. Out of the three unsteady acting categories, this is the one I'm the most confident about. Just because I see more negatives with Angela Bassett and Jamie Lee Curtis, as far as Bassett with a Marvel movie and not winning any awards. Jamie Lee Curtis, I don't think that's going to translate with SAG, because if she wins, Everything Everywhere will win 3 acting awards plus picture. I can't see that happening. I don't think that's ever happened as far as that and winning picture. So I think it's the one place Banshees will win, because I think it will lose screenplay. Also, I would be very surprised if they had double presenter, or if the presenters presented 2 main acting awards, because that usually doesn't happen at the Oscars. It happens at the Globes and the Emmys all the time. But I don't.
Let's
think that
move on to international feature. Not going to do.
I think we have a delay.
Rob has a slight delay.
I mean, I'm predicting All Quiet on the Western Front. I don't know who else isn't.
I think the whole world is, Chris, according to the odds. All Quiet on the Western Front is certainly the front runner, and literally has been from the beginning. So this is according to like the predictors, like this is not a race at all. You know, we literally have 8,913 individuals voting and rooting for All Quiet compared to 228 for Argentina, 1985. So, you know, it could be an upset, but that would be pretty interesting just based off the current odds.
Yeah, I have All Quiet on the Western Front also. You know, when you're when you're a non-English language film, you know, nominated for Best Picture and you're up for the international category, it's almost impossible to lose. Obviously, the Academy has already spoken. It's the only international film that they've decided is also one of the best pictures of the year. So I don't think it's a stretch to say that it's going to be their favorite international film.
Yeah, the Best Picture nomination pretty much locked it in. It's also the only one that has nomination anywhere else. Like all the other nominees have is just their sole nominations in that category. So it's a slam dunk for me.
And everyone else apparently, Chris, compared to the odds.
Yeah.
Looks like we lost Rob for a short bit.
So that was a category that didn't require a lot of discussion. What else was on our docket? Let me see.
The acting categories, director, makeup, hairstyling, costume design, and production design. I think those are all pretty safe.
I don't know. You know, let's talk about makeup and hairstyling. We've got and actually Latasha, you can run us through our odds there and tell us what's going on.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. So definitely for this category, Elvis is expected to take home the Oscar tonight, with The Whale possibly upsetting there. It looks like, you know, the bottom three nominees for All Quiet, Batman, and Black Panther, they've been coasting along on the same path from the beginning of this particular race up until today. It's quite interesting to see how Elvis made a nice little jump weeks ago and where they are now. So as of now, according to the odds, it looks like Elvis, you know, has this one. We'll see.
Yeah, Chris, you said this was pretty locked in. What makes you say that?
I mean, I was surprised as anyone. Well, like when The Whale premiered, I think I was just like everyone else. Like that's a shoo-in for makeup. That's the correlation between actor and the makeup category. But Elvis winning BAFTA, secure, and as well as the support it has with even not just actor, but like costume design. It might win production design if Babylon doesn't. It just has more art. I think it has more hardware going into it, and I think that's where people will rally. It will check down the box of like that movie, and it's, you know, it's a way to reward Tom Hanks's makeup too, I guess.
The Razzie winning Tom Hanks for his performance. Actually, it's looking like Elvis is then going to, you know, unless Elvis gets shut out tonight, which is very unlikely, Elvis will become just the second film to win both Razzie and Oscars. So that will be an interesting place in history along with Wall Street. So we've got Tony Ruiz and Matt Noble here with us now. Tell us what you think about makeup and hairstyling, and you know, who's going to win that? Whether it's The Whale, whether it's Elvis. What do you think, Tony?
Right now, I have Elvis winning this one. For the same reason that I think, you know, Elvis is a more liked picture. It's a more acclaimed film, and it, I think, actually has the harder job to take because a lot of people focus on just, you know, Tom Hanks's now Razzie winning performance, which I think is weird, but also the fact that you have to go from basically, you know, young Elvis to bloated Elvis, and not have it be a caricature, and not have it be so over the top that it looks like a Vegas lounge show. So I think they accomplished that in Elvis, and I think that's where it's going to go.
Matt?
Yeah, I was on mute. Yeah, I actually am going with the whale on this one. I just think those prosthetic makeup often do quite well in this category. But yeah, it's the question of the more Oscar-y film that's doing well across the board and might have a little bit of a sweep's probably overstating it, but pick up quite a few of those technical wins versus the whale, which is really just your lead actor and makeup contender. And I just think the prosthetics of the whale are sort of the kind of showy makeup work that these Oscar voters love.
So let's move on, talk about best costume design. Latasha, tell us about who's in the running for costume, or do you have production up?
And that front runner for best costume design based off the predictions currently is Elvis, with a possible upset with Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Huge difference in the amount of votes. We had nearly 7,000 individuals, go for Elvis compared to almost 2,500 for Black Panther. So this is an interesting category, very interesting category according to the predictions. I can't wait to see how this one goes. It's one of my favorite categories.
Yeah, it's another category where we had sort of one nominee in the lead, and then it just sort of the trajectory just completely switched. I'm personally thinking Elvis is going to do it. Catherine Martin is hard to beat. But what do you think about it, Chris?
I have Elvis. I feel like the way this season started with a front runner, and then there's a last search for another movie in a particular category, just pretty much represents the whole Oscar ceremony in general. I think this, out of all the tech categories, this is one of the most secure for Elvis if it wins anything. It's basically dressing Elvis Presley, who was known for his very showy costumes, very extravagant, very down to its detail. I just think it has it. But Ruth Carter did win for the first Black Panther. That had more support back then, so I'm not positive it will have the same result, but it could happen for that too.
I find it interesting, the Black Panther of it all. Ruthie Carter's amazing, and the costumes in that movie are incredible. But I do wonder if there'll be a bit of a we've awarded Black Panther costumes already, going with the sequel. Because Lord of the Rings, for instance, only won costumes once, of the 3 times it was in. So you don't have a whole lot of history of a sort of multiple movies in one franchise taking this award out, I think.
Yeah, I can't think of another franchise that's won it multiple times either. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I think this is probably Elvis's safest prize. I, for a while, was suspicious that Everything Everywhere could sneak in here in a sweep mentality, but I think Elvis has got this. I actually have Catherine Martin predicted to win 2 awards again. So.
Yes, as she has done before for both Moulin Rouge and The Great Gatsby, taking both costume design and production design, which is a great segue to the production design race. Latasha, take us through that one.
And according to these predictions, Babylon is definitely the front runner with a possible upset with Elvis. Avatar is not too far down there, but as of now, it looks like Babylon, has this one according to the odds. I like to stress that.
Yes, according to the odds, it's not over until it's over. But I do think this is a two-way race. It's hard to win Best Production Design without a Best Picture nomination, unless, of course, you're Catherine Martin, who did this with The Great Gatsby. I've got Babylon just because I think it's the showiest of, for production design, and it won the BAFTA, even though it didn't have a lot of support there either. But yeah, Elvis is right up there with it. Tony, you mentioned that you're going with Catherine Martin to win this one too. Tell us why.
The fact that she's done it twice before tells me that she can. The fact that she's done it, if she had only done it once before, I'm not sure I would be as confident. But given that Elvis is the Best Picture nominee and Babylon did not get as critically well received, I just don't think that they necessarily will go that way when they've got a Best Picture nominee that is also showy. And I might be wrong on this one. I might be letting my antipathy for Babylon color my judgment. But Catherine Martin has done it twice. I think she can do it here.
And Matt?
This is one of the categories I'm just like, so I've had Babylon, I switched to Elvis this morning, I switched back to Babylon when I was watching Rob and Chris's 23 categories in 23 minutes video, and now you guys are talking I want to switch it back to Elvis. I just don't like, this is one of the categories I just could see it going either way, and yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll stick with Babylon.
Chris, how about you?
This is one where I can see it going either way. This is the most vulnerable, like just because Babylon's not a Best Picture nominee. But I think maybe enough people see it to know that how much production design there is, especially on those film sets, which is what they usually would reward. Elvis is mostly like these stage shows is where the production design shines, but this is a category definitely to see how much love they have for Elvis. If it wins here, it will very likely win all the other categories that might be up in the air for.
We've got 9 minutes until showtime. So with our remaining time, actually, Tony and Matt weren't here when we were going over the bane of all of our existences, which is Best Supporting Actress. I just want to hear both of your thoughts on it. Matt, let's start with you.
Since nominations came out, I think I've had Kerry Condon in the position because I think Banshees did really well across the board of Oscar nominations, and if they're looking for somewhere to reward it, she could be the one. And also, I just think she's the heart of that film. She's the one that is the most sort of empathetic and likable of that whole cast. So, all the characters. Sorry, not the actual people. I'm sure they're all lovely people in real life. I was open to changing it, but it's almost like because there's less stability in this race, it's given me more confidence to stick with that prediction. So Kerry Condon, I'm just going to go in with it. I've also had Banshees in screenplay this whole time, and I just think I'll stay on that limb and just see how it pans out, though I'm getting a bit worried about that.
Yeah, Tony?
Yeah, as you call this category properly, the bane of our existence. For the longest time, I thought this was Angela Bassett's, and then Condon won BAFTA, which didn't shock me. But then Jamie Lee Curtis won SAG, and I thought if Angela Bassett was going to win anywhere, it was going to be at SAG. I understand everybody picking Kerry Condon, and if Kerry Condon wins, Banshees was my number 3 film of the year. I love that performance. It'll be a great win if she wins it. I'm sticking with Jamie Lee Curtis to win this. SAG in supporting actress has correlated to the Oscar winner 12 out of the last 13 years. And I think Jamie Lee Curtis peaked at just the right time. She gave that speech and on the night when Everything Everywhere was winning everything. And I just think, yeah, it's been a long time since we've had a 3 for 3 in the acting, a 3 out of 4 in the acting categories. I think the last time it happened was Network, which was, going on 50 years ago. I think it's due to happen again. And I don't think that Everything Everywhere is so popular right now. I just feel like I feel like this is where I feel like she's gonna take it. If I'm wrong, great, but I can't change at this point.
Yeah, I'm since we're all in like one of 3 different places on that one, I just kind of want Stephanie Hsu to win, so that if we'll all be wrong, I'll be thrilled, because if I had a vote, I would give it to her personally. This is a great group of performances, but she'd be my pick. So then I wouldn't feel bad about getting it wrong when a bunch of other people got it right. Then it would be something that like the vast majority of people get wrong. Those are the kinds of upsets I like, because they don't hurt my score. It's sort of like no harm, no foul. So, Academy, give it to Stephanie Hsu for that reason and that reason only, to help my score relative to others. We have just a couple minutes left. Any closing thoughts? Anything you're looking forward to tonight, Chris?
Waiting for Jimmy Kimmel to address Will Smith. Then that'll be completely. That will have gone full cycle, and it will be mentioned at every award show officially, and we don't have to talk about it until like the next couple of years or so. I'm anticipating an Andrea Riseborough joke tonight. I think that'll be fun. And yeah, just there's a lot of up in the air categories tonight. I'm still, as far as actress, I'm sticking with Cate Blanchett, because I really think Tar is not going to go home empty-handed. It's like the only film that got into picture, director, cinematography, and editing. So I think it's bound to go home with something. A lot of people are predicting it for cinematography, which I don't have. But even if that does happen, I can't see how. If that happens, I don't see how Cate Blanchett loses. And I finally switched to Austin Butler for Elvis, also because I finally realized how much hardware Elvis might win tonight, and if that happens, I think that he will go along for the ride. But so specifically those 2 categories. But I'm pretty much hyped up for what will happen towards the end, because not everything's set in stone. There's like barely any locks, except for the ones we talked about.
Unfortunately, yeah, we are out of time for this. Sorry, Tony and Matt. But we have the award show in just 4 minutes. I believe our prediction center is closed already. So if you hadn't made your predictions or hadn't made your changes, go with God. It's going to be what it's going to be. So we'll see what happens. Thank you to everyone here. Thank you so much to Rob Licuria, who's been having technical problems. He is an ace at these pre-shows and post-shows that we do. And everybody enjoy the show. It's going to be an interesting night.
And we'll come back
for the post-show.
Yes.